Real quickly, before we get going on this episode, a big thank you to everyone who's been so supportive of Breaking Nashville. Those of you listening in Nashville, those of you outside of Tennessee, those who have already followed our Twitter page at Breaking Nash. You visited our website, breakingnashvillepodcast.com, Facebook, all of it. This has been a blast. We're having a good time, and I got to tell you, I'm excited about today's interview. This guy's cool. His name is Chase Bryant, and this is Breaking Nashville.
Take it on back, take it on back, take it on back to where the grass is greener. Take it on back to when she and me were true believers. Loving all the things that come with it. Moonshine kisses, man, I miss it. Take it on back, take it on back.
That's the single of the man we're about to talk to. His name is Chase Bryant. He's got Twitter. It's at Chase Bryant, and the song is called Take It On Back. Okay, I got to tell you, when I saw your headshot for the first time, when I heard you were coming in, I thought one thing, and then I heard your music. And your voice didn't match your headshot. You've got this, like, this isn't an insult. I hope you take it as a compliment. The Hunter Hayes kind of clean-cut, good looks, but your voice is so adult and rich. And
well, thanks, man.
Have you heard that before, that your voice goes far beyond whatever your age has to be?
Sometimes, yeah. Sometimes I do. I hope that doesn't sound cocky, but
no.
Yeah. No, I mean, I've gotten that sometimes. You know, I grew up in the music, so I guess, you know, for me, it just kind of happened naturally for that to happen. So, you know, just, I've heard it a couple of times.
What do you mean you grew up in the music?
My grandfather played for Roy Orbison, the Teen Kings, and Wink Westoneers, and Buddy Holly and Waylon Jennings, Elvis Presley, Glenn Campbell. And then my uncles were in a country band in the 90s that had a hit in 1996 called Daddy's Money. The band was Ricochet. So,
wait, really?
Yeah.
You're related to Ricochet?
Yes. Junior and Jeff, the fiddle player and the drummer. Those were my two uncles, so I grew up, I was dunked in it. You know, somebody said that to me not too long ago. They thought I was dunked in it, so.
No one tried to talk you out then, since you've had so much family in the industry? They didn't say, hey, go be a doctor?
No, family definitely didn't. I think there were people, you know, that I grew up with that always said it'll never happen, you know, and that always makes you want to do it even more. But I feel like it was like pre-chosen for me or something, you know. I feel like it was kind of like I was destined to do it, you know. I mean, there's nothing else I'd ever want to do. You know how, you know, a car, when it leaves a body shop at Toyota or Ford or Chevy, it's made to be red or it's made to be gold. I felt like I was supposed to do country music, you know. That's what I was supposed to do. Well,
you grew up with it. It must have been all at the house and with the family. So when did you pick up an instrument for the first time?
I picked up a guitar probably 2.5, 3 years old. Wow. Yeah, and one thing for me is I play upside down and backwards. So I play right-handed guitar or left-handed, which is pretty strange. But I mean, you know, my mom was a school teacher. My dad was a farmer, so we didn't really have much money to buy guitars as kids. You know, of course, we bought like small parlor kids guitars, and I've still got my first one I ever had.
That's cool.
Have the first guitar I ever built for myself. You know, but yeah, I mean, at 2 years old, 3 years old, I started picking up playing around with it, so tinkering around with it at least.
What about vocally? When did you start going like, man, I can sing?
The first time I ever heard Jerry Lee Lewis, and that was probably around 2, 3 years old too. Yeah, I heard Jerry Lee Lewis, Lewis Boogie, and it was quick and it was cool, it was funky. So I picked up doing that, and I was always singing, and I could never let go of it. You know, I wanted to perform, I wanted to play. You know, so
when you were in high school, were you in like a band? And
I had this band in high school. We were called City Limits. We were like the boy band in Texas. You know?
Okay.
We used to play a bunch of little bars around close to my hometown in Corpus Christi, which I grew up in Orange Grove, Texas, small town. But yeah, we used to play a lot in there in Texas, and I tried to do my own solo thing, but had this little band. And then, in fact, I moved to Los Angeles, California when I was 16 just to write songs. And I was still doing country, but I knew it was like my first avenue outside of town to get out of my hometown and get out of school. So I went right for that, and then moved home and moved to Nashville 3 years ago. So it's all been just kind of happening since. So
you were 16 when you moved to LA.
I was 16.
So were you doing like the homeschooling thing, or did you just graduate
I went to
early?
a private. Somebody offered me a publishing deal out there, and I took that and just started writing songs. And then I had there was a small, I had enough hours. My mom was a school teacher, so we were always taking college classes in the summer. So I had enough hours to graduate. So I went to a private school, graduated, moved out there, started writing for about a year and a half, and was writing country music too, which some people think was always a little odd, but I was writing country music, and then moved home for like a month to get out to Nashville because I'd met some people in Nashville that wanted to manage me and work with me as an artist, and then I just went out. So that was it.
So you go to Nashville, you have a management that wants to work with you. So what's the next step after that? You just wander around Music Row?
You know, I mean, at first I thought I want to move out. I want to write songs. I want to find out who I am as an artist and find out who I really am as a person and where I'm at in my life. And Barbara Orbison, Roy Orbison's wife, actually met me one day right before she passed and said, man, I want to sign you. And I wasn't planning on moving out for a couple months. And she came to me and signed me on the spot to a publishing deal. And so I moved out and rented a little place out in South Nashville and started just writing songs and producing my own music and was playing a bunch of the instruments and stuff and play guitar all over my stuff. And then Benny Brown at Broken Bow Records about a year and a half, 2 years later, came out to a show and saw me play and shook my hand at the end of the gig and said, man, I want to sign you to a record deal. So
where were you playing at?
I was playing at a place called the Highwatt. It's at the Cannery Ballroom in Nashville. And so I was playing there as loud venue. You know, we were playing there and he was there the whole set, like 3 or 4 rows back, watched us play. And
did you know who he was when he came up to you?
Yeah, you know, we had a meeting at the label that day,
okay,
which is funny. And I wasn't sure that they were going to make it out to the show, but Renee, who's with us today, she works for the label as well. She was saying in the meeting, come get your guitar out of the car and come play for us. I was like, no, come to the showcase, you know, come see his full band, you know. And they always kind of thought that was weird that I wouldn't play for them. And then they came to the show and then wanted to sign me there. So it was pretty cool, man.
So he shakes your hand, he says, I want to sign you. You go home obviously excited about that.
I'm calling everybody I know, which I probably shouldn't have, but you know, he doesn't know that, but I called everybody I knew. It was like, man, I think I got a record deal, you know. So we started working on that, and you know, it was soon thereafter. I mean, 8 months in is where we're at now, 8-9 months in, and it's funny because, you know, Benny, I'm the first act on the label to ever co-produce a record. The first one that he's let co-produce a record. First one he's let write all the songs on the record and play all the guitars and all that stuff. So I'm co-producing with Derek George, who did Randy Houser's new record, Joe Nichols' new record. And
those are great records to be a part of.
Yeah. So we've been best friends for a couple of years and just decided to make a record together. Benny loved the demos I was making in my house in my little office downtown. And let me go to work. So
you said it's been 8 months from the day you signed the paperwork. So what went into those few months? Was it just really working on that album?
Yeah, I mean, it was a lot of being in the studio, kind of trying to figure out the sound and what that was going to be like, and trying to figure out those first 6 songs we cut. And and funny enough, it's like, you know, you start working, and you're like, oh, I got all the songs, we're good to go. We cut 21 sides right now, so we're a little heavy and deep in the record, so we got to pull back a little bit and figure out what's going to end up staying. But it's funny because, you know, we started cutting, and it was like last day of cutting, I was just still writing in between at the house. Some nights I'd pick up the guitar and write, and some of those songs made the record. So I was still writing, just still recording and working on, you know, just coming out and who I was, you know. So
did the label have some team to help you go okay, we need headshots. We're gonna dress you in this and take this photo? And I
cut my hair about probably 10 times. I looked like Joey Hyde before I was down behind you. So I cut my hair probably 10 times, and so now here I am, spiked up hair, but yeah, I mean, it's always it's who I wanted to be. You know, definitely. I figured, you know, they wanted to get the hair out of my eyes, so I cut up my hair a little bit, and but I mean, everybody's been really good about just, you know, helping. I mean, it's funny, you know, you never know that somebody can actually help you find yourself sometimes, and Benny was definitely cool about that and gave me a lot of direction, but also let me walk the ways I wanted to walk on it. So it was cool.
You mentioned Joey Hyde. There's so many new artists right now who kind of just have been signed, going about on their radio tours. Sam Hunt, Joey Hyde, Chase Rice. He's still climbing up. Who did you work with in Nashville as you were writing songs and waiting to get signed by Benny?
I was working with a guy named Tommy Lee James. He was definitely my mentor as a songwriter, and probably 95% of the reason I'm writing songs. We started writing songs together 2-3 years ago, and probably wrote, you know, 100 songs by now that we were working on. And Derek George, you know, I worked with him, and a guy named Dylan Altman who wrote Barefoot Blue Jean Night and Watch the Wind Blow By for Tim McGraw, and Tim Owens who wrote Ticks for Brad Paisley. So it's cool, and it's definitely cool to see the people that you were in town with at the same time or came to town, you know, it's like we all hop off that plane and it's like, all right, we're going to start working, you know, and it's funny, like John King, you know, John King and I definitely, one of our first showcases in town was together as songwriters, you know, so that was pretty neat, you know, I mean, just to kind of see a couple of us kind of come through and stuff like that. And I remember hearing Ray Lynn's name when I first came in and Joey and those guys. So it's strange, man. You start looking and going, man, we're all out here at the same time. So it's pretty cool.
And that's what you're doing. You're on your radio tour. For those who don't know, pretty much you're going around to radio stations. You're meeting program directors, music directors. You're meeting fans.
Absolutely.
Trying to really get people to